think, Reuven, you can highlight this best by this example here, but can you take us through what is compounding and talk us through a little bit of Mr. Early and Mr. Later?
Sure, thanks, Andrew. Compounding is really when the returns are reinvested instead of being paid out. So when the returns are reinvested and earn returns on top of that, what that means is that you're starting off with a bigger balance each time period. And that leads to an analogy for this is like it's like starting off with a small snowball and rolling it down a hill with a very long slope where the slope is time. So you might start off sort of small and slow, but then as you go down that slope, as you have more and more time, the snowball picks up more snow, gets bigger and accelerates. So the importance of compounding returns instead of just those returns being paid out is that it leads to exponential growth rather than straight line growth. So you are accelerating the return on your investment by reinvesting and compounding those returns.
Right. So could you take us through this example that we see here on the screen?
Yeah, sure. We have Miss Early here that she starts off at age 25 and she puts in $2,500 for the next 10 years. And then she just leaves it. She doesn't make any further contributions. And the assumed rate of return in that investment retirement is 6%. So altogether, she spent $25,000 over 10 years. The return is 6%. But her investment has been in that environment for 40 years, from 25 to 65. And as we can see on this slide, at age 65, she ends up with almost $215,000 compared to her colleague, Mr. Later, who starts 10 years later at 35. So his investment sits in that environment for only 30 years instead of 40 years. But he puts in 3 times as much money because he puts in $2,500, not just for 10 years, but for 30 years, from 35 to 65. And let's see where he ends up at age 65 compared to Miss Early. And as you can see here, even though he has put in 3 times as much money, he is still trading Miss Early by about $3,000. So I think that is sort of a very interesting example of that snowball effect of compounding returns and why time is so important. The more time you have in a compounding environment, it leads to the exponential growth that we sort of mentioned just earlier on. And so I think this is a really powerful example because he doesn't catch up because of that. He started 10 years later, even though he put in 3 times as much money.